They took longer than expected, but the reasoning behind the Court of Arbitration for Sport's decision to overturn Manchester City's Champions League ban and reduce their €30 million fine by 2/3 have been released. Let's go over it as I went through the 93 pages of mind-numbing legal speak and have tried to boil it down to a relatively concise video for those who are interested in what led to this decision. But first, I gotta clear the air on something. If you're not interested in this, then feel free to jump ahead to this time code. No problem there. Even though I made it abundantly clear in my video that I was reporting on Der Spiegel's football leaks, and I even said that there was a massive allegedly across the entirety of the videos I made on the football leaks. After seeing how those leaks were taken out of context by Der Spiegel's writers, they were cherry-picked essentially, and even worse, which I'll show you later, I can't stand by that video anymore. I can't see a point in having that video exist anymore, as it just bothers me and I feel like it doesn't do any good for my reputation. It doesn't push me in a direction that I have an interest in going in. And now Der Spiegel is on my list of publications that I don't have a lot of trust in anymore, at least for the moment. They were considered a trusted investigatory paper back in the day with some of their work, and I even spoke to a few different German subscribers of mine that told me how they exposed wrongdoing in German politics in the past, their pedigree with investigative journalism, etc. But they've sullied their reputation after the handling of this and other controversies, and I'm not interested in them or their association with the Football League series that they do anymore. At least to the point of making videos out of public interest on them, you know? Like, they are big stories, so I reported on the leaks, but I'm not going to do that anymore. I will acknowledge them, but videos dedicated to explaining them won't be a thing in the future. Mind you, football leaks itself may not be a thing in the future, given their legal issues. Because even if I make it clear that I am just reporting on the story that they wrote, as I did do in the videos I made, I can't trust that those leaked emails are being reported in the proper context by Der Spiegel. I don't trust them as a source despite their previous accountability in journalism. And in doing some recent digging on them, when this ruling came out, a few months after I had reported on various football leaks, it came to light that one of their other journalists, who doesn't write sports journalism, but he had falsified stories for years. So anyways, with that in mind, let's get to the ruling. I'll try to make this as digestible as possible after my eyes nearly fell out of my head in reading the 93 pages. I've broken it up into small sections though. One of the biggest questions after the verdict was revealed was what exactly was time barred. A lot of people assumed that City only avoided punishment based on a technicality, that they weren't allowed to be punished for something because it fell outside of the 5-year period. But that's not entirely true, as only certain pieces of evidence of their alleged attempts to conceal finances are time barred. The evidence in question that is time barred are the sponsorship payments they received from Etisalat. They were not taken into consideration because they occurred outside of the 5-year limitation period. As Cass notes, quote, "The majority of the panel finds that no other conclusion is possible than determining that the charges based on alleged disguised equity funding by HHMUS and or ADUG through Etisalat are time barred." Just a quick note, because it'll come up again later, ADUG is Abu Dhabi United Group, and the context of these allegations deemed that City were hiding cash payments from ADUG, the company that Sheikh Mansour owned City through, via sponsorship money via Etisalat. That's a no-no, but the court did admit that, quote, "If it were true that these amounts did not comprise sponsorship payments but were in fact disguised equity funding, the financial information provided by MCFC in its financial statement for the year ended May 2013 and the break-even information for the 2013-14 monitoring process was incorrect and could have subjected MCFC to prosecution on that basis." So had this hearing happened a couple of years earlier, then perhaps UEFA would have had a leg to stand on against City, but their hands were tied in regards to the Etisalat payments. Poor showing from them, legally, going into this knowing that this would have been time barred by a good 2 years or so. All right, let's talk emails, leaked emails. Much of UEFA's case against City was based on these leaked emails via the Football League's articles. And given that City were non-compliant in regards to proving to UEFA that these emails were taken out of context, UEFA assumed that they were indeed legitimate, and they pressed on. So there were 3 questions here surrounding the emails. Were they authentic? Were they taken out of context? And would they be admissible as evidence? I can't count quite clearly. In regards to the authenticity of the emails, on May 18th, 2020, Citi did confirm that the emails were authentic by providing the original emails to CAS. However, the CAS panel did note that, quote, "It transpired that the leaked emails were mainly selected parts of emails from which certain information had been deleted, such as additional text, the names of the persons added in carbon copy, and the dates." They also noted that in one case, 2 separate emails were combined to look like one by Der Spiegel. But despite this, they also said that despite these things, and despite it giving a bit of a distorted impression, as they put it, they found it didn't actually affect the veracity of UEFA's claims. And as for the admissibility of the emails in court, as in would they be eligible to be evidence, Citi argued that they should not be admissible, with their argument deriving from a Portuguese judge who said that these hacked documents should not be used as evidence in, quote, "a lawful and fair penal process in any jurisdiction," end quote. To that, however, CAS said that they are not bound by this, given that they are in Switzerland, and in Switzerland, the Swiss Code of Civil Procedure says, quote, "Illegally obtained evidence shall be considered only if there is an overriding interest in finding the truth." There's a long explanation about how this qualifies, but in simplified terms, the fact that this case was of the public interest and that UEFA themselves didn't illegally obtain them, they didn't hack them themselves, the leaked emails are considered admissible. So, what did that do for the verdict? A sentiment that keeps on floating around is, if Citi didn't do anything wrong, then why were they still fined? José Mourinho is one of the biggest personalities to have asked this question, and the answer is pretty simple. Citi's ban was overturned and they were cleared of breaking FFP rules, or at least UEFA didn't provide enough evidence that they broke FFP rules, so they couldn't be fined for that. But the 10 million euro fine that they have to pay is a separate issue from FFP, as that fine is for their non-compliance with the investigation that they were under by the CFCB, the Club Financial Control Board of UEFA. I won't read the full ruling exactly, but if you have an interest in it, I have linked it below, and feel free to pause at any moment to read these screenshots for yourself. But basically, Citi refused to provide certain pieces of evidence, such as complete and accurate copies of the leaked emails to the CFCB during the investigation, and Citi only brought up the requested evidence by the CFCB when they were actually in front of CAS in May of 2020. CAS noted that FFP is reliant upon proper reporting from clubs and that Citi's non-compliance was a serious mistake by Citi, given that a large part of UEFA's case against them was in regards to the leaked emails. And Citi ultimately wasted a lot of time by not providing the original emails. Had they produced them immediately, UEFA wouldn't have had to go forward with this case, and the CAS found this breach from Citi to be, quote, severe, and that Citi is to be, quote, seriously reproached for obstructing the CFCB's investigations. Now, as for overturning the participation ban, the 2-year Champions League ban, CAS determined that, given their agreement that most of the allegations of financial concealment were either not sufficiently proven by UEFA or were time barred, the main thing that Citi were guilty of doing was non-compliance. And in the opinion of the Court of Arbitration for Sport, they believed that a 30 million euro fine and a 2-year ban from the Champions League was far too harsh for non-compliance. Concealment of funds, if proven, would have been worthy of this sort of fine and ban, but given that they couldn't prove that, a much smaller 10 million euro fine for non-compliance and for wasting everyone's time essentially is what Citi were handed. By the way, Citi also tried to say that due to the pandemic, their fine should be considerably lower, but CAS noted that Citi is financially in a very good place, and therefore the 10 million euro fine stands. Let's go over the final verdict, the conclusion here. Even though Citi and UEFA came to a settlement agreement previously, back in 2014, 2015, CAS determined that this did not bar UEFA from charging them once again in light of the new information they had. Had they had a better case, it would have been admissible. This new information being the leaked emails, which CAS deemed were admissible evidence. The alleged breaches via the Etisalat payments are time barred, and therefore they cannot prosecute them for those. UEFA did not provide a strong enough case to prove that Citi disguised equity funding from the Abu Dhabi United Group as contributions from Etihad. Therefore, the panel wasn't comfortably satisfied with the allegations. On top of this, it's noted that City provided ample accounting proof and explained the various roles that Etihad, etc. played within their club, and the panel was satisfied with their explanations. UEFA, on the other hand, didn't provide enough proof of wrongdoing. The panel found that City failed to cooperate with the Club Financial Control Board's investigation in respect of 2 different issues, and finally, the panel finds that City will have to pay the €10 million fine for not complying, as well as €100,000 to cover UEFA's legal fees, but they are cleared to play in the Champions League. So that should be all that you guys need to know regarding the ruling from the Court of Arbitration for Sport. This puts to rest a long case. Another funny thing that came out from this ruling was how 9 Premier League clubs filed an application to CAS that, in the case of City appealing the decision, if they had lost and then they appealed it, ensured that they would not be allowed to play in Europe next year. Because if they had lost this, then they would have been able to appeal it again, and while that appeal was ongoing, they would have been cleared to play. So these 9 Premier League clubs that came together to sign this were Arsenal, Burnley, Chelsea, Leicester, Liverpool, Man United, Newcastle, Tottenham, and Wolves. A long and happy relationship between them and City, for sure. It's also worth noting that UEFA probably felt as if they had to do this, as if they didn't take action against City of some sort, then more and more calls for corruption within UEFA would come to the fore. The longer this went unchecked, the more that they would seem shady. And from UEFA's point of view, in the end, I mean, they got their legal fees covered, as well as a €10 million settlement from City, so they didn't lose much, anything really. And in turn, City took a big hit on their reputation. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new and want to find your way back to us, and I'll surely catch you in the next video. Ciao!